I woke up to my phone buzzing on the nightstand, and for a moment, I thought it was just another pregnancy app notification. My hand fumbled in the dark, fingers closing around the screen. The blue light burned my eyes as I squinted at it.
2:11 a.m.
My husband Derek was snoring softly beside me, one arm draped across my 7-month belly, like he always slept. Protective.
Sweet.
Or so I thought. The notification wasn't from my pregnancy app. It was from Cash App. A payment alert. I blinked hard, trying to focus through the fog of exhaustion. The numbers didn't make sense. They were too big. Too impossible. $50,000 sent to soulmate_XO. My heart stopped. Then it started again, but wrong, like it was beating out of rhythm. I sat up so fast the room spun. Derek didn't move. The notification glowed in my hand like a grenade. I opened the app with shaking fingers. It was real. Our joint savings account, the one we'd been building for 3 years, the one that held every penny for the baby's nursery, for hospital bills, for our future, was nearly empty. One transaction.
2:09 a.m.
2 minutes ago.
Soulmate_XO.
The baby kicked hard against my ribs, and I pressed my hand there, trying to steady myself. I looked at Derek. Really looked at him. His face was peaceful, mouth slightly open, completely unaware.
Or was he?
I reached across him, slowly, carefully, and picked up his phone from his side of the bed. My hands were trembling. I knew his passcode. His mom's birthday. I typed it in. The phone unlocked. But I wasn't ready for what I found. Because when I opened his Cash App, the transaction wasn't there. His account showed nothing unusual.
No $50,000 payment.
No user named soulmate_XO. Nothing. Like it never happened. But my phone was still glowing in my other hand, still showing me the alert, still proving I wasn't crazy. 3 months earlier, everything had been perfect. We just found out we were having a girl. Derek had cried in the ultrasound room, pressing his forehead against mine and whispering that he was going to be the best dad in the world. I believed him. We'd been together since college, married for 4 years. He worked in tech and I was a kindergarten teacher. That $50,000 was supposed to be our down payment on a house. Our future. But that night, staring at his phone and then at mine, I felt the first crack form in the foundation of my life. The transaction was real. Cash App didn't send fake notifications. But if Derek's account didn't show it, then how did $50,000 leave our savings? And who the hell was soulmate_XO? I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I sat in the nursery, we'd just started painting, and checked every app on my phone. Bank accounts, email, text messages. I checked our joint savings directly through the bank app. The money was gone. Transferred out at 2:09 a.m. to an external account. I called the bank's emergency line at 4 a.m. They told me I'd have to come in during business hours to file a fraud report. When Derek woke up at 6 a.m., I was still sitting there, phone in hand. He took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. I showed him the notification. Watched his face as he read it. He went pale. Genuinely pale. Then he grabbed his own phone, checked his Cash App, and showed me the screen. Nothing. He swore he didn't do it. He swore he'd never heard of anyone called soulmate_XO. He said we'd been hacked. His panic seemed real. And that terrified me more than anything. Because if he didn't do it, then who did? We went to the bank that morning. The bank manager pulled up our account history. The transaction was there, clear as day. But it had required 2-factor authentication. A code sent to Derek's phone. A code that had been entered correctly at 2:09 a.m. Derek swore he never got a code. Never entered anything. The manager said she'd start a fraud investigation, but it could take months. And there was no guarantee we'd get the money back. I wanted to believe him, but then I remembered something. Something small that suddenly mattered more than anything. 2 weeks before, Derek had come home acting strange. Distracted. He'd been on his phone more than usual, texting someone, always angling the screen away from me. I'd noticed, but hadn't thought much of it. But now, I couldn't stop thinking about those texts. About the way he'd smiled at his phone sometimes. about how he'd started putting a passcode on his laptop for the first time ever.
I didn't say anything.
Not yet. But inside, something had shifted. I didn't trust him anymore. The investigation went nowhere. The bank said the transaction looked legitimate. Cash App said they couldn't reverse it without proof of fraud. The police said financial crimes weren't a priority. Derek suggested we use his parents' money for hospital bills. I said no. I wanted answers first. He got defensive, said I was being paranoid. That's when I knew I had to start digging on my own. I became someone I didn't recognize. I started checking Derek's phone whenever he showered, going through his emails when he was asleep. For 2 weeks, I found nothing. His texts were boring, work stuff, messages to his mom about baby names. Nothing suspicious. I started to think maybe I really was paranoid. Then I found the burner phone. It was hidden in his gym bag, tucked into a zippered pocket. I'd been looking for his insurance card when my fingers brushed against it. An old iPhone, cheap case, connected to Wi-Fi. My stomach dropped. I turned it on.
No pascode.
And there in the Messages app, I found everything. Hundreds of texts to a contact saved as M. They went back months. Since before I got pregnant. I can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again? Last night was incredible. My hands were shaking. I scrolled and scrolled, each message a knife in my chest. They'd met up at hotels. Her apartment. Once, while I was at a work conference, I'd called him every night that weekend, and he'd sounded normal. Loving. He'd been with her. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the messages from 3 weeks ago. I need help. Emergency.
Can you send money?
Derek. How much? A lot. I'm in trouble.
Please.
And then, thank you. You saved my life. I'll pay you back, I promise. My husband had sent $50,000 to his mistress while I was pregnant with his child, while I was sleeping 3 feet away from him. I sat on the bathroom floor with that phone, and I didn't cry. I couldn't. I was beyond tears. The baby kicked, and I whispered that I was sorry. When Derek came home, I was sitting at the kitchen table with the burner phone in front of me. He saw it immediately. His face went white. He started talking fast. She'd needed help. She was being blackmailed. It was complicated. He'd panicked. He was going to tell me. I let him talk until he ran out of excuses. Then I asked him one question.
Who is M? He said her name.
Morgan. Someone he'd met at a work conference 2 years ago. They'd stayed in touch. It had never been physical until last year. And then only a few times. Then he'd broken it off. But she'd contacted him saying she was in danger and needed money. He couldn't tell me because I was pregnant and stressed. He'd planned to tell me after the baby was born. I asked him if he loved her. He said no.
But his eyes said maybe.
I told him to get out. He begged. Couples therapy. Whatever I needed. I told him I needed him to leave. He packed a bag and went to stay with his brother. But I wasn't done. Something about Derek's story didn't add up. Morgan being blackmailed? Needing exactly $50,000? So I tracked her down. Derek's emails had her full name, Morgan Chen. I found her Instagram, public profile. She was beautiful, younger than me. But what surprised me was that she didn't look like someone who'd just been blackmailed. Her most recent post, from 2 days after Derek sent the money, showed her at a fancy restaurant, champagne glass raised, new beginnings. That's when I realized Derek wasn't the only one who'd lied to me. Morgan had lied to him too. I messaged her from a fake account, pretended to be interested in buying something she'd posted. We met at a coffee shop. I was 8 months pregnant, huge and uncomfortable, but I didn't care. When she arrived, I told her who I was. The color drained from her face. She started to stand, and I told her if she left I'd make sure everyone knew what she'd done. She sat back down. I asked her why she'd lied to Derek about being blackmailed. She stared at me for a long time. Then she said, I didn't lie. I was being blackmailed, just not by who Derek thought. Morgan had been in a relationship with someone else. A guy named Tyler. Older. Controlling. He'd found out about her and Derek and threatened to tell everyone unless she paid him $50,000. Morgan didn't have that money. So, she went to Derek with a sob story. He'd sent it, thinking he was saving her. But here's the twist. Tyler was Derek's coworker. They sat 3 desks apart. Derek hadn't just sent money to his mistress. He'd sent it to his coworker, who was blackmailing her. And Derek had no idea. But that still wasn't the end. When I got home that night, there was an envelope taped to my door. Inside was a printed bank statement. Tyler's bank statement. There was the $50,000 deposit. But next to it was another transaction. A transfer of $25,000 back out. To an account I recognized. Derek's personal checking account. Derek had known. The whole time. Him and Tyler had blackmailed Morgan together, split the money, and framed it as a hack. The burner phone, the tearful confession, all theater. He'd used my pregnancy and trust to steal from our joint account and hide it in his own. I went into labor that night. My daughter came into the world while her father was in a jail cell after I'd called the police and handed them everything. 2 years later, I'm watching my daughter play with blocks in that same nursery. Derek's in prison. Wire fraud, theft, other charges. Tyler too. Morgan testified against them both and got immunity. We got some of the money back. Not all, but enough. My daughter doesn't know her father. When she's old enough, I'll tell her the truth. That sometimes the people you love most hurt you deepest. That a Cash App alert at 2:11 a.m. can change everything. I still check my phone obsessively. Every notification makes my heart race. But I'm healing. And my daughter is happy.
Healthy. Loved.
And if you're listening to this, wondering if you're crazy for not trusting someone who swears they love you, trust your gut. That feeling saying something's wrong? Listen to it. If this story reminded you to protect yourself and your peace, maybe share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not for me. For everyone who's ever had to choose between love and truth. Sometimes late at night, when my daughter's asleep and the apartment's quiet, I think about that notification. How something so small unraveled everything. I don't regret any of it. Because now when my daughter asks me what love looks like, I can tell her the truth. It's also knowing when to walk away. When to protect yourself even when it breaks your heart. That's what soulmate_XO taught me. And I'm never forgetting it. If this story touched you, help the telling tree grow. Subscribe for more stories that speak to the heart. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below with your thoughts. I read every one. Thank you for being part of our storytelling grove.